you'll see Dr. Taff. Click on that. It will take you to where the photographs are that we're about to talk about now. The two movies that scared the tar out of me, Doctor, were The Exorcist and The Entity. And I think because both were based on reality, you were the principal investigator on the case that was later made into the movie called The Entity. Tell that story. Tell the real story versus what occurred. Was the movie close?
Well, the movie was close, but as with, the entertainment industry, they took dramatic license with it, which is, I guess, the nature. The book, of course, took dramatic license because when Frank DiToledo was writing the book, he said to me, if you had your druthers and had all the money in the world, what would you have done in this scenario?
Right.
And I said, well, we would have placed the woman in a controlled environment and hope that the phenomenon would occur there and then try to document it with the best instrumentation possible.
Which, as I recall in the movie, is exactly what they did.
Correct.
They created her home in sort of a big soundstage, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that did not really occur.
No, that would have cost a fortune. And what's interesting, what I wanted to say just from the last segment very quickly, was that I believe that if we or any researchers had all the money they wanted, billions and billions of dollars, and all the time they wanted, I think what we'd end up with is knowing what the phenomena isn't. I don't think our technology is sufficiently developed or adequately developed to really put a handle on this. I think we're still investigating the effect of an unknown cause that operates through mechanisms we haven't the foggiest notion of.
Do you think there ever will come a day, this is speculation of course, when we will figure it out?
Perhaps, but it was one of the reasons, and this is my own philosophy, one of the reasons I think we're not going to discover this in the immediate future, let's say in the next 75 or 100 years, when I'm being, that's perhaps pessimistic projection, is that the knowledge gained is so potentially destabilizing in terms of society, we would make it into weapons. What does the military want with all this paranormal knowledge? They wanted to make weapons and countermeasures.
Of course.
And that's where everything goes. And if these abilities, these forces of nature were turned into anti-personnel weapons, we'd all be dead by now.
Well, surely if it could be proven that Uri Geller could snap a blood vein in a brain as he could a spoon on a table, they would have him locked up but good, wouldn't they?
Well, that's true, but what's intriguing, Uri Geller did have a conscience because the military did in fact, who sponsored some of the research on Geller, the Defense Department, they did in fact want to see if he could damage, military weaponry and or personnel, and he said if people were going to be harmed, he wouldn't do it. That was his attitude back in the 70s, which shows the tremendous, level of sophistication. There may be people who might not have that control or inhibitory factor and just go out and do whatever they want, as they do with a gun today. So, but I do think that if we ever unlock this force, we're not going to like what we see. I mean, that's my personal judgment and feeling based on experiences I've run into over the years.
Well, like all forces, though, it could be used for good or evil. The problem is the Pentagon rarely has good on its mind.
Well, the Pentagon exists, basically, wage war.
Yeah.
But back to your original question, which was about the entity case.
Yes.
1974, my colleague was in a bookstore in Westwood, in California here, Los Angeles, and he's talking to one of his friends about our work, investigating hauntings, poltergeists, etc. And a woman across the aisle, looking at books with a friend, she says, "Oh, excuse me, but my house is haunted." It's fine, and rather than talk about this in a public, environment, which would be disastrous for everyone,
Sure.
he said, "Let me take your name, your phone number, and we'll call you, make an appointment, come out to the city." It's fine. About a week later, we go out to see her. She lives in Culver City, which is not far from Westwood, in a broken down little shack of a house, three times condemned by the city. She has 4 children, 1 boy and 3 girls, little girls. We started interviewing her, and the first thing she told us is that she'd been repeatedly raped or sexually accosted by these entities. There were 3 of them, she claimed. 2 would hold her down,
saw that happen?
Yes. And we checked the cover of the cabinet for anything, springs or whatever, and there's ropes, wires, there were none. We picked up the pan, it was very normal. And, I should say that upon entering the house initially and on the second visit, the house had a peculiar smell to it, like a smell of rotting or decomposing organic matter. Very foul stench was quite intense. This was the middle of August of 1974. It was very hot, and the house was cold. Yet the windows are open, and why was it not
cold?
Warm? Why was it so? The bedroom was particularly cold, which apparently was the loci, the focus of the phenomenon. Went into the bedroom, and it felt like it was refrigerated.
All right, now there is something that one would think you could measure. I mean, take a thermometer and take it into the bedroom. Have another one outside. The windows are open.
No, temperature didn't register. The only real instrument reading we got, we brought a Geiger counter into the house, and while in the house, the Geiger counter showed, normal ambient, background radiation. When the phenomenon started peaking, as we'll discuss in one moment, the needle on the Geiger counter went to zero and stayed there, as if whatever it was pulling energy out of the environment rather than putting it in.
That's absolutely fascinating. So even the background radiation
disappeared. Now, we were in the bedroom and we began to see lights moving and flying about the room. And she told us what was happening to her there. And her eldest son, who was a teenager, talked about seeing her being bounced around in her bed one night, like in the movie, by an invisible force. And he went to help her, and he was just flipped backwards and thrown into the wall. We heard all this, but we saw this light. And incredible. We tried to take some pictures. Nothing happened that time. But we came back another time, and we now sealed off the bedroom from all external lighting.
What lights, the first time, what lights were you seeing?
Looked like little comets, corpuscular masses of light with tails on them, flying about the room, always greenish yellow in color. And we saw these that looked like darting around the room, and there are no fireflies on the West Coast, so we knew they weren't, that wasn't the cause. But again, we didn't have a controlled environment, so we came back to the next night. We sealed off the room, we put up, everything was dark, and we again saw the lights. We brought, professional photographers with us to got our own cameras, and we did get a picture of one of the lights. It was a ball of light with a tail on it, but we couldn't tell where it was coming from, where it was going to. There was no reference. We couldn't tell its speed. We didn't know the direction it was in. So we put up black poster boards on the wall with duct tape.
Okay, do I have one of these photographs?
I sent you one of the pictures. I don't know if you put them all up on your web page. I sent you, I think the ones you put up deal with the arcs of light. Now these were what we were seeing when these arcs were photographed. We were seeing balls of light, three-dimensional balls of light, like ball lightning, for lack of a better term, flying madly about the room. The arcs of light we never visually observed. What we think we caught were the equivalent of time lapse. You have taking a picture of a star, and your camera isn't on a motor drive platform or motion platform. You get streaks. We think that's what we ended up obtaining in this case. These pictures were taken with Kodak Tri-X film, pushed at 6400 ASA development, and we used a deep red gel over the flash.
All right, I see one photograph says the two arcs shown in this photo, arcs, appear to be at right angles to each other. These free-floating spatial images are not bent in conformance to the walls behind them. Same balls of light were observed during this photograph as in photograph 5 above. Now, is that what you're talking about?
Right. These arcs of light, in that particular picture, the arcs are at right angles to each other. And at that time, we were seeing balls of light flying madly about the room. And
you're right, they're like little comets, almost.
Right.
And as the closer to the object, it's thicker, and then it seems to trail off as you would imagine it would. That's really bizarre.
And what's most impressive is that behind the arcs, in that and one of the other pictures, the walls meet at a 90-degree angle. If this were a projected image against the wall and not in free space, the image of those arcs would be bent in accordance with the wall, yet they are not. Which tells us that the lights were in free space.
What was the attitude like in the room when all this was going on? How How many people were there?
Up to 25 or 30 people.
25
We
or
had
30
numerous photographers, and I should say that during these frequent outbursts of light, the woman said that she put certain record albums on, some heavy metal stuff, that when we were muted, the lights would come on, so we put the record down, the lights appeared, and at one point, in the middle of one of these light displays, an apparition appeared in the corner of the bedroom. A large, muscular man, the upper torso from about the waist up. You see the arms, the neck, the shoulders, the head. No salient facial characteristics, but a very distinct, large man. And at that point, two assistants who were with us just passed out.
I understand that. I wonder if we might call that apparition the rapist.
I don't know.
Maybe
All I know is that we all saw the same thing at the same time. Yet our cameras that were firing, consistently did not capture that image. They captured light, just balls of light and arcs, which makes no sense because it's a paradox. You shouldn't be able to photograph what you see, and being able to photograph what you can't see makes it all the more problematic.
Okay, but at this point, with this much phenomena going on that you're documenting, even getting photographs of, you've got to begin to believe the lady when she says she's getting raped.
Yes, we believed that she experienced something. The rape is difficult to document because obviously she wasn't a virgin. We weren't there. We weren't able to take the proper medical test. But what was more impressive were one night we got a frantic call and the woman said the poster boards had been torn off the wall. So we come to the house in the middle of the night and they had indeed all been torn down, the ceiling and the walls, taking the duct tape with it, plus the plaster and the paint. And the room was a shambles. And of course the woman could have done that, but it's unlikely from what we've seen. It just didn't occur.
These were the ones that you had put up.
Correct. To determine, to reference the pictures we were getting, because we were able to determine the direction, orientation of the light. One night some candelabras flew at her. Another night the fuse box was torn out of the wall, thrown at her, just missing her head.
Oh, man.
Now on the last night we were at this house, which was October 31st of 1974, and it happened to be a full moon, we brought an image intensifier, a low light scope attached to a camera, and nothing was really going on except for very weak light. And we asked the light to, whatever this thing was, to do something more than producing light because it wasn't very responsive. And at that point, we saw duct tape being pulled off the wall, off the ceiling by unseen hands.
You saw that yourself?
Yes, being pulled off, and the poster board flew through the room and hit the woman being haunted in the head. Left, just bang right in her head.
Oh.
We asked again, another poster board, more duct tape is pulled off, and flew and dropped at her feet.
All right, Doctor, hold on right there. You're listening to the story of the entity. Actually, it wasn't then called The Entity. Obviously, it was one later made into a movie called The Entity. I'm Art Bell, and this is CBC.
West of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies at 1-800-825-5033. 1-800-825-5033. This is the CBC Radio Network.
My guest is Dr. Barry Taff. We'll get back to him in a moment. We're talking about the case that later became the movie called The Entity. To Dr. Barry Taff. Dr. Taff, if I saw lights flying around a room, even as a professional investigator, and I saw boards and tape flying off a ceiling or a wall, that would change my life forever.
Yeah, it's somewhat unsettling, although it didn't pose a direct threat to any of us, so at least myself and my colleagues were pretty shocked, but it wasn't like we didn't have the fight or flight response.
But at the time, was happening, you could not have known that there might not have been a threat ahead.
I don't know, for some reason, to me, it was more like being at an easy could ride at Disneyland. I was shocked and amazed, but it didn't frighten me. It didn't scare me for some reason.
Well,
I guess because everything was directed at the woman as opposed to us. One of the pictures we sent you, the woman is framed by the arc of light.
Exactly right.
It's really significant because it's not just some haphazard random thing. It's framing the woman.
All right, now, in that photograph, there is the woman. She's sitting on is it a bed?
Correct.
All right, she's sitting on her bed, and there are obviously a number of photographers in the room.
Right.
That is the real woman. That's
Mrs. D. That's the real woman from the Entity case.
It is.
Almost 23 years ago. And what's important is the secondary arc to the left of the frame.
Yes.
That's in front of one of the photographer's heads.
Yes.
Which again tells us that this is a three-dimensional phenomenon. It was not some, thing projected against the wall. As long as I live, I don't care how long that is, I will never forget those nights because it was something that you read about, you hear about, you see in B movies, but you never expect to encounter.
When this was going on, when this arc was above her, what was her demeanor like?
Well, it wasn't the arc. We were seeing balls of light flying around her.
Right.
And everyone was just like stunned and they were like frozen in amazement. And we were just firing cameras, watching, trying to see if we could, see a source for this. And of course, there wasn't any apparent source. The room was almost pitch black at the time.
So the light that you obtained, as a matter of fact, let me ask you, I've got a fax here. It says, Dear Art, what kind of camera was your guest using to take these photos? The shutter speed and camera settings don't seem possible unless he was using a special camera.
35 millimeter, I think it was a Pentax. Film speed was 1/60th of a second. Shutter speed, using a flash with a deep red gel over it, which filtered it into the very light, close to the near infrared. The room was pretty much pitch black, and the only illumination besides the arcs, the bulbs of light, were from our filtered flash or our strobe.
All right, she's got her head down or turned away.
She's cowering under the balls of light.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What she was cowering?
Like, oh my God, it's over me. Cause this stuff has been harming her for quite some time, and so she was like almost ducking as it was flying over and around her.
All right. So,
I guess what's important is, the phenomenon stopped. She moved after October 31st, 74, Culver City to Carson. And we lost track of her for a while. We found her again, and we thought, well, it's all gone. Now she's moved. No, the phenomenon moved with her. And what's very significant about this case, that was very telling, is that shortly after she moved in her house, people on both sides of her were flanking her. Both of their homes began experiencing poltergeist outbreaks. Objects flying around, things coming out of cupboards, garbage being dumped on the floor, pounding noises, light. And at this time, we had not published anything yet on the case, and we certainly had not exposed her to the media or anything. So, what's going on?
Yeah, and so now you've got more witnesses. You've got people in homes on both sides.
Exactly. And who didn't even know her plight. They knew nothing about her, what was going on with her in Culver City. We went to her house in Carson. We witnessed more phenomena there. A flower pot full of soil was thrown amongst a group of people and shattered in the middle of the floor. We heard strange, voices. We recorded some strange sounds of like a deep breathing, moaning thing approaching the microphone and then shut the recorder off.
Really?
But we didn't see anything. We saw some of the lights, but it never got to the intensity it did in Culver City. We went back to the old Culver City house, and nothing's happened there.
Did you keep those recordings?
Yeah, but all you hear is people talking the record, and then you hear like a smash, and you hear like voice, but it sounds like someone's walking up to, like a person is there, and they have respiratory problems, and they're approaching the microphone, and then they turn it off. That's all. It sounds like a B movie, like something you hear in an old mummy movie.
Huh.
But since it's an audible thing as opposed to visual, it doesn't carry a lot of weight. Because
how did you come to know about the neighbors?
apparently they were talking amongst solved. And they actually came into her house and said, "Have you had these weird experiences going on?" And she said, "What?" And they told her. She said, "Well, yeah, this has been happening to me for years."
I see.
So, I mean, you're living a nice, peaceful life. Everything is normal, down to earth, and
Then all of a sudden,
suddenly all hell breaks loose.
yeah, all hell.
It's a very disturbing situation, and so now we assume that, and I should say, she finally moved out of Carson to San Bernardino, and the phenomena moved with her there. She moved from San Bernardino to Texas. The phenomena moved with her there.
It went with her to Texas?
Yes, and so we assume, because it's centered around her, that it's more psychokinetic in origin than perhaps discarnate. There's no way of knowing one way or the other, but we assume that because it followed her.
Well, is that really a safe assumption? In other words, that it is within her?
Well, if you look at it from a psychological perspective, she claimed she was attacked by 3 male entities.
Yes.
She had 3 male children. Three male children and 1 female child. And she said that it was a very volatile relationship, extremely volatile. And it doesn't take a lot to project into the situation that these hostilities and animosities with their children were manifested or sublimated into her unconscious, and this was the psychokinetic manifestation of it. But that's a real big leap in logic. I mean, that's like an Oedipal thing almost.
Did she submit herself to any medical testing?
Yeah, Frank DeFalier ran some tests with her, psychological tests with her. Nothing abnormal showed up, other than the fact that she was tremendously distressed and very anxious, and sort of the quintessential poltergeist agent. We refer to these people as being a lot of anxiety, repressed hostility, generalized anger, deep unresolved emotional conflict, sort of all wound up with nowhere to go, sort of a massive conflicting impulse. And she typified that. And many of the other poltergeist agents that I've come to know over the years have exactly the same psychological profile.
Mrs. B is still alive and living in Texas?
We don't know. We know she moved back to Southern California in the 80s and early 80s. And the last time I had any contact with her was when the entity came out, which was in February of 1983, and I haven't heard from her since 83, and I don't know if she is or where she is.
Would you like to?
Yes, but I think the last I talked to her, I remember she said that nothing had happened for a very long period of time. It had been very quiet. As she's grown older, the kids grew up and
Sure.
moved out.
Well, we cover the nation like a great blanket, and just in case she is out there and can get to a fax machine, I would very much appreciate it, Mrs. B, if you're listening, because we have promoted this show, fax me a phone number, which I will keep to myself, and we will call you. We are at area code. My fax number is area code 702-727-8499. Again, 702-727-8499. Be interesting to speak with her. All right, doctor. So that is the entity case, but by no means, this is where you shocked me last time, by no means was it necessarily the wildest, was it?
No. Up until that time, of course, it was. But since then, we've had cases that dwarf the entity case. One in particular, which we call the St. Peter case, or an unknown encounter, as the video is going to be called.
Oh, there's going to be a video.
Right. It's called an unknown encounter, which is a video which chronicled and documented our investigation of the St. Peter case, which began in August, for some reason. That month is important to us, of 1989. And it was a spectacular case. What happened, a woman named Susan Cosnea called me and told me she had a friend that was plagued with children, babies essentially, and a little turn of the century sort of house on 11th Street in San Pedro. And we walked in the house, and there was that same rotten smell, that same odor of decomposing organic matter that was present in the entity. And also something else that was present in the entity. A sense of overpressure. The best way to describe this would be if you go down in a deep pool or go scuba diving, the pressure you feel around your head and your ears. You go deeper in the water.
Sure.
And that is a very common effect we've seen in many cases.
Is that measurable?
No.
But
No.
it's just something you feel.
It's a subjective experience. If you bring in, devices to measure the barometric pressure, it doesn't show anything, but it's a demonstrable effect in terms of pretty much everyone's senses. And we don't know what this is, but everyone holds their nose and blows to equal the pressure of their station, so we don't know what that is. Anyway, we interviewed the woman named Jackie Hernandez, and she told us of seeing a disembodied head in the attic, seeing several full, blown male apparitions wearing clothes like from the late 40s, early 50s, gasoline attendant clothes, tucked in high water, pants, plaid shirts, and they were very ugly looking men. And she was at her wit's end. Objects are being thrown about the house. Fires are breaking out. Furniture being moved around.
Gosh, how long had all this been going on?
Since October of '88, when she moved in.
So it was quite a period of time before she contacted you.
Right, when she got up enough nerve to call us without the fear of, being labeled a quack. And we listened to her, and she told us a number of things. Water pouring out of 2x4s, for which there was no source. During the course of the interview, we heard strange pounding noises coming from the attic. It sounded like a 200-pound rat was gallivanting around up there. And she told us that's where she saw the disembodied head. So we went up in the attic and took some pictures, didn't see anything. Came back down, talking with her some more, going around the house, checking it out.
Sure.
Talking to several friends of hers that were there to witness the phenomena. And we heard the pounding again. One of our photographers, an assistant, named Jeff Wheatcraft, he went up into the attic to take a final set of pictures with a 35 millimeter. And he's up there taking pictures. Now, when he was doing that, my colleague, Barry Conrad, is the videographer I work with, and I and some other people were downstairs. And we were waiting for Jeff to come down so we could leave because it was getting very late. And we suddenly hear a crashing sound, and Jeff comes flying out of the back end of the kitchen where the crawl space was in the attic, and he's white as a sheet, perspiring heavily, he's shaking. And he said something had violently grabbed the camera out of his hand. And I said, what do you mean you dropped it? He said, no, it's like he was taking pictures, and the camera was just forcefully pulled out of his hand. And so we went back up in the attic. We found the camera. The body had been separated from the lens very neatly. The body was on one side of the attic, the lens was on the other.
Wow.
And yet there was no one in the attic. So what pulled the camera out of the thing? While exploring the attic with Jeff and Barry Conrad and myself, something shoved Jeff and pushed him across the attic. Yet there was nothing behind him, physically, that we could see.
So, in other words, you were present when he was pushed across.
Yes, and it looked like the equivalent of a very large man had shoved him with great force in his back, vaulting him forward. You suddenly see his body move forward, but in a very unusual manner, like someone pushed him in the middle of his back.
Gotcha.
And we, look, what's that? And he had yelled and didn't know what that was. The first night, there was also some viscous liquid dripping out of her cupboard, oozing out of her cupboard, and it smelled very strange. It was like a yellowish, viscous liquid, yellowish orange. And we put her into a sample bag. We later had it analyzed. It turned out to be human blood plasma.
Human blood plasma. Coming out of a
cupboard.
Out of a cupboard.
And we have videotape of this.
You do?
Yes. And we have analyzed, and we couldn't determine the source because there's obviously no one walled up in that little house.
Well, when you must have opened the cupboard.
When we opened the cupboard, we even pulled off some of the wood panels. There was nothing there except for the viscous fluid. So we never made a determination beyond that point. Subsequent to our first night's visit, Jackie was sleeping one night out of the living room because the bedroom, there were strange noises, the bed kept collapsing, and objects were being thrown at her and her kids. She's sleeping on the floor with her kids, and a friend stayed over. And all of a
one of the pictures I've got on the webpage. This man, Jeff Wheatcraft,
Right.
is seen hanging from a rafter.
Right.
What was wrapped around his neck?
A piece of plastic clothesline tied in a bowline knot. A bowline knot. And it was intricately wrapped around his neck, and it was produced a very deep rope burn. And had it not been for Gary Bain, Jeff would have been killed.
Very quickly, I should imagine.
Yes. So he got him down, and Jeff was in shock, and all he remembered was walking towards the crawl space, suddenly feeling something pulling up on his neck, and then he blacked out. And fortunately, we have a couple of pictures from 35mm camera of that particular event, and that totally traumatized Jeff. I mean, completely, and he never again went into the house after that night.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. In fact, it probably traumatizes him to this day. Do you still talk with him?
Not so much. He's demonstrating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder.
I'm sure he is.
Strangely enough, he continued in the investigation, but not in that house. Jackie finally moved from the house. We recorded some other strange anomalous lights with videotape and 35mm. She moved from San Pedro up to Weldon, California, which is about 350 miles north of Los Angeles. And I couldn't go up there with Barry Conrad and Jeff Wheatcraft, but because of my schedule. But they went up there, and more lights were seen. One of them videotaped flying into the shed behind the house where strange things were occurring, and that was the speed of that was determined to be 211 miles per hour.
How do you determine speed?
Well, by knowing the frame rate of the video and how much distance it's traveled in the frame and across so many frames, they have an estimate of the speed.
A lot of legitimate scientists right now are studying something really weird that occurred in the atmosphere, the upper atmosphere, I think in August, again August, in which an object traveled through the atmosphere at 1/100th the speed of light. It was a light object itself, and they had no idea what it was. It maintained its shape, which if projected from Earth it would not have. So it was a real something, but traveling a lot faster than what you measured. Doctors, stand by. We'll be right back. This is CBC.
On the wildcard line at 702-727-1295. That's 702-727-1295. First-time callers can reach Art Bell at 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Now, here again, Art Bell.
Once again, here I am. Hello, everybody. Great to be here. My guest is Dr. Barry Taff. That's Taff, Dr. Barry Taff. And I'll tell you, he's got some stories to tell. He worked with the parapsychology lab at UCLA's Neuropsychiatric Institute for 9 years, investigating the paranormal, the case known as the Entity, and the San Pedro case, and much more. We're in the middle of the San Pedro case right now. And there's another photograph I want to talk about. As a matter of fact, I've got a fax here from Daryl in Rancho Mirage, and he says, Art, I suggest your listeners go directly to the Barry Taff images on your webpage. They are remarkable. And I suggest you do that too. The photographs from the cases we're talking about were sent to me by Dr. Taff. I scanned them and uploaded them. Take a look. Don't believe our words. Take a look at the actual evidence. It is incredible. We'll get back to Dr. Taff in a moment. And again, for those just joining the program at this hour, The surveys are just beginning to come in, radio surveys, and once again, in Los Angeles, we're an overwhelming #1. And now, in San Diego on KFMB, #1. So thank you, everybody in Southern California. First couple of surveys to come out. KFMB just absolutely wiped up the map in this time slot with everybody in San Diego. And in Los Angeles, ditto for KABC. So thank you. Thank you. Back now to Dr. Taff. Doctor, there is another photograph from the San Pedro case. It apparently shows, I guess, a living room with a television.
Right, that's actually a bedroom.
A bedroom, all right, a bedroom with a TV, and actually you can see the picture on the television, that's how clear it is. And it shows an object that, kind of like I guess we were discussing just prior to the top of the hour, a light object just sitting there. What was it doing?
A number of these amorphous plasmas, for lack of a better term, were flying about the room. Jackie's child was watching television, and these lights were just swimming all over the room, so she took out one of the cameras we gave her and started clicking off pictures. And this is one of the more spectacular ones.
I'll say.
And it looks like a diminutive, a disc with a cupola on top.
It sure does, almost like a UFO.
Yeah, right. And another picture that we didn't give you, which we haven't transferred from video to film, the one at 211 miles per hour, when we freeze framed it and enhanced it, we showed it to about 2 dozen people, got their independent response, and everyone said, oh, it looks like a little UFO.
Yeah,
Now,
that's exactly
what are these images doing in this type of case? And why are we even seeing things like this? And one of the other pictures I sent you, the 3 balls of light.
Yes.
Hovering over the rug. Phenomenal. These are point sources. These have defined edges, yet they're corpuscular, the 3-dimensional nature. They overlap each other. One of these casting a little shadow over the other.
I know, it's incredible.
And they're emitting light in only 2 directions.
Now, let me ask you.
Down towards the rug, but
Right.
not backwards towards the wall.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you. There is light obviously being emitted toward what looks like a rug on the floor. That's what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that light is from those objects?
Correct.
Oh my God.
It was taken without a flash.
Without a flash.
Without a flash. We have numerous. It was actually one of many pictures we have. This case became so strange. As I said, we followed Jackie up to Weldon. I wasn't there, but Barry Conrad and Jeff Wheatcraft did. And they were sitting in a little trailer house one night. It got very cold and very quickly, and the table began to shake, and the chairs began to shake, and suddenly Jeff, in his chair, is picked up bodily with the chair. The chair drops down. Jeff's about 6'2", about 170, 180 pounds. He's picked up, the chair drops down, he arcs up to where the ceiling meets the wall, and he's knocked unconscious as he hits the wall. This happened in a split second, so Barry Conrad, and even though he's an excellent videographer and a really gifted cameraman, there's no way he could have gotten the camera into position because we didn't anticipate this. And we thought Jeff was dead. He was unconscious, he was brought to consciousness, and he remembered something equivalent of a giant boxing glove compressing his diaphragm, and he just, blacked out.
All right, look, at this point, I'm going to ask what I know the audience will ask, because they did on Dreamland. So much violence occurred to Jeff during the course of these investigations that a lot of people wondered if Jeff might not have been the catalyst for it.
Now, this is intriguing. This is only 2 of many more instances that occurred. Before I get to specifically answer that, on another occasion, after Jackie had visited Barry Conrad's house in Studio City and she left, phenomena broke out there. Objects began flying around, machines going on and off, blasts flying through the air, fires breaking out.
All without Jeff.
Jeff was there.
Oh, Jeff was there,
And
okay.
in fact, at one point, something threw him across the room and gouged out his back. We have a video of it looks like a claw just scraped his back. And we got it on camera, which is he was holding a video camera before he turned it off, and he's propelled across the room in a somersault, and you see the camera rolling with him.
Wasn't it about time for Jeff to consider retirement?
Yeah, well, this is almost his last case. And,
Yeah.
what's interesting about this case, I guess from a psychological perspective, Jackie Hernandez was in dire straits because of all the she acknowledged it. She said, yes, that's true. But that doesn't explain how her mental state or anxiety translated to a psychokinetic force that could, throw Jeff across the room like a rag doll and almost hang him.
Okay, and again, all of this began, everybody should know, and brought you there before Jeff ever entered the picture.
Right. Jeff was just in, a sort of a sidebar of the situation. Things were happening before Jackie even knew my name, Barry Conrad's name, or just Wheatcraft's name. There were other things that came up in the case, Jackie used Ouija boards with friends. It told us there was a man named Herman Hendrickson that lived in the house Hendrickson, who was killed. He never lived in the house. He was killed in St. Peter Bay, drowned in 1930, and that his murderer bared a striking resemblance to Jeff. Now, we can't prove who killed him, but we did prove that this man existed and that he was indeed killed in 1930 in St. Peter Bay. That's in the archives.
Well, here's a wild stab for you. Had anybody ever considered a regressive hypnotherapy on Jeff with regard to a possible prior life?
He wasn't too open to that possibility. The idea didn't, but by this time, he was so unnerved by what had happened, he just wanted to remove himself from the case.
I understand that.
And I can understand why. It's, when the phenomena broke out at Barry's house on a number of occasions, we were there with the crew from Current Affair. And stove turned on, bullets went flying through the air, glass broke, machines turned on, liquid papers floating through the room, and other times, his editing bay.
Wells Fargo Active Cash Credit Card. Earn unlimited 2% cash back on purchases you want, like dance lessons. And on what you need, like memory foam inserts. That's real life ready. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.